when I did The Color Purple, I had survived sexual assault. I stopped calling myself a survivor. I called myself a thriver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
I'm taking that home with me. So, what are the odds?
What are the odds?
That we find each other at Spotlight Theatre Talk.
Girl, this is a full circle moment for real.
I mean,
Like from Vit's days on the lawns, taking that commercial, doing that commercial, trending in Nigeria.
Okay, wait. So, can we discuss how did we end up getting cast for that thing?
I can't remember for the life of me. I literally can't remember. Or were we chosen or something like that?
I think we were chosen to take pictures together.
Yes, for this brand. And
Yeah.
so that's what we did. And then
we found ourselves in Nigeria.
I remember the first thought was, so we're going to get paid for this, right?
In Nairas.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I mean, how long has it been since I've seen you?
I think we haven't seen each other in a year.
In a year or so.
Yeah, a year or
Yeah.
so.
Let's take it back a bit. I mean, where did this all start?
Right? Vitsies, we were young, aspirational, just young dreamers, talented dreamers who
Yeah.
knew that they were being called to be storytellers. I remember specifically that for most of us, especially our generation, it was not about the fame.
Yeah.
Many of us really were just interested in telling stories.
I mean, I remember moving from KZN, right?
Yes.
And the reason why I found myself in Johannesburg, I first started off at the National School of the Arts, right?
Yes.
And I always knew there's this little article of me where I won this competition in grade 3, right? And I said to myself, I'm going to study at Wits.
Yes.
So having bumped into you at Wits is like a sort of like a full circle moment for me as a little child, as that little dreamer and that storyteller.
Absolutely. I kind of remember how hopeful we were.
Yeah.
We did not know exactly what the industry really was, and we had no idea of the trajectory of it. All we knew is that we had these passions and these dreams, and I kind of miss that young version of us, of back at Wits, because all we did was eat, sleep, breathe,
Stories.
and acting.
That's all we did.
That's all we did.
I mean, okay, so that's such an interesting one. You said you miss that version of yourself.
Yeah.
How different is that version, like the one that I know from Wits, to this one now? Like talking about like full on growth. How different are you?
I think obviously as we season and as we mature, we get to understand every single facet of ourselves. I don't like to use good or bad, the light and the dark aspects of ourselves, and we come to accept who we are. So the younger version didn't really know her strength and how deeply strong she was. And now I've just gone through so many experiences, so many friendships, so many relationships, so many experiences that just led me to understand the capacity of my strength.
Yeah.
And also understand me as like the full spectrum of who I am, right? What about you?
I mean, I remembered Wits just thinking that the industry would be kind to me.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, I don't know, I sort of had this thing at Wits where like young Swankie thought, I'm going to be at Wits and then I'm going to go out and then I'm going to get a job and then get Ospana, Kispane. And then...
Lefatshe le go bontsha mawaza.
Lefatshe la mpontsha mawaza. Like, I honestly, that was me. And I remember, like, most of the people that were our lecturers, I think you know Makhaula Ndebele, right?
Ah, the great Makhaula.
Daddy Ndebele.
Flowers.
Flowers to
That man
him.
needs his flowers.
That man needs his flowers
Yes,
ASAP.
yes.
So I remember looking at Makhaula and thinking, I mean, I was starry-eyed to even have him as a lecturer. And I remember thinking, I'm going to be like him and I'm going to act.
Yes.
And then I got my honors, and what happened?
Ah, girl.
Girl.
When did you get your agent?
I got my first agent when I was 18.
Oh, wow.
I think I was 18.
That's quite young.
That was very young. I wanted to be represented. I knew this. Coming out of NSA, I wanted to be represented. And I found this agency called Legends. And the owner of Legends is Lisa Modisane. So when I got to her, she was like, oh, my darling, you're quite too young to be represented.
I love that impression.
She speaks like that. I literally thought she was white. And when I met her, I was like, Lisa Modisane. She's black. And so I got her. And she was really like, that was such an experience. So I've always been a girl that has an afro.
Yes.
And we were actors, I'm sure you know this. We will get a little bit into it about like how we look as actors. But they needed actors that had weaves.
Okay.
And I was hell spent on my natural hair. As is right now. And thankfully that makes me my money right now.
Yes.
But back then the aesthetic wasn't
It was
that.
very much the sew-in.
The sew-in.
The sew-in season, babes.
You know what I mean? So she had a problem with me, and I couldn't book jobs because of that.
That's so crazy that we are Africans living in Africa, but that was not the aesthetic that was being sold.
Do you know what
Crazy.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd audition and then I wouldn't get roles. I'd audition and then I nearly get a role. And then I auditioned for this show called Shreds and Dreams.
Okay.
So I auditioned the first time, and I think the job went to another Didi. Modei Makobane.
That's my big sis.
That's my big sis as well. And then I got this one-liner against Raton Velase, and I remember being so starry-eyed. I lost myself.
Oh no!
I know.
Not with the one line.
Not with the one.
That's hilarious.
Line. So I mean, she represented me for a few years, and then over the years, I've sort of like changed representation. And do you still remember your first?
I'm still with the agent who signed me on the first time. Yargi Wagena of Artist Connection.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. She signed me in Wits my last year.
Okay.
Because I originally was doing performance and writing. Yeah. And then I decided to take on musical theater and Pam. I don't know if you remember Pam.
Yes, Pam.
Yes. So she saw me at a musical theater showcase, singing Here from The Color Purple, funny enough.
From The Color Purple?
Yeah, I sang Here from The Color Purple for my showcase. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Yeah, but that's how I got my first agent.
And you're still with them?
I'm still with Yargi.
Wow.
All these years.
Do you find that like she still understands you as an agent? I mean, like we were speaking about young Didi and old Didi.
Yeah.
Do you find that like with how you've evolved, she still sort of like gets you as an artist?
Oh, she definitely still gets me. And also she often dreams for me. You know, sometimes she'll see a brief and send it my way. And I'll tell her, I don't know if I can do this or if I want to do this. And she will literally push me to kind of get out of my comfort zones. Because, you know, sometimes when we get into the flow of TV work, we can feel very complacent.
Yeah.
And so she gets me and she understands the growth mindset that I want, even in the moments when I forget it myself. And I think that's a good agent. You want an agent who knows you, who can dream for you when you don't have the capacity to, and who believes in you.
Yeah, that's all you really, really want. Speaking of dreaming, I don't know. I feel like I'm asking you so many questions, but it's like, I haven't seen you in such a long time.
I know, we're catching up, babes.
We're catching up.
This is catch-up sesh.
So, I mean, I mentioned Lerato Velase as one of like those people that I was starry-eyed for. And that's my big sister right now. You know, I'm still so starry-eyed for her, particularly in the theater space.
Yeah.
Do you still like, at this point, have people that you look at in our space and just like lose your mind over?
I don't know about lose my mind over.
Am I being dramatic about it?
No, not at all. But I think there are people who I've been on set with, and on stage with, like Aubrey. Watching him on stage was just such a delicious masterclass. Or even Camilla.
Camilla Waldman.
Watching her on stage or even on screen, it's just always it's like I'm fascinated, but I am also in awe. My curiosity is piqued, but I am also learning and taking notes.
Yeah.
I don't know about if I get starry-eyed anymore, but I do get really inspired.
Yeah.
And you, which actors right now are really just kind of like moving you in that way?
Yo. It's gonna sound like I'm on repeat. Lerato.
Yeah.
Lerato Mvelase. Definitely has me starry-eyed. You know why?
Yeah.
Because I'm interested in her process. Like, it's like every time I see her on a different job, whether it's screen and whether it's theater, I sort of like ask myself, how does she get to where she's going, you know, or where she is, you know? Because then I kind of like juxtapose it to sort of like my process
own
as an
process,
actor.
yeah.
I mean, we all have different processes to how we get to our characters or how we get to like our performances.
Yes.
I think her and Camilla Waldman are two people where I genuinely go, I want to know how you get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm going to like say something.
Yeah.
I'm going to fangirl over you. Like as, and
So the thing is, you know what's crazy? I was about to fangirl over you just now.
Okay, who goes first?
Look, can I go first?
Okay, you can go first.
I think it's not every actor that can do a one-woman show. So I need to just
Thank you.
clap hands
Thank
for
you.
you, give you
Thank
your
you.
flowers right now, because a one-actor show is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Right? It's just you on that stage, right? You have so much to remember. And there's no one that can feed you. There's no one that you can bounce off of. You have to use your mind's eye, your imagination to the core. Because if you don't see it, we don't see
Yeah.
it. You have to create that world on your own.
Yeah.
So what was the process like? Because you wrote your show as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So just take me through the entire journey from inception to performance.
Wow. So I get a little bit emotional about this one because it's my baby.
Yes.
You know, it's my baby. So this is my second one-woman show. I did my first, and what the odds are, I did my first in 2015.
Yes.
It was directed by Mahlatsi. I think now they go by the theater duo,
yes.
and written by Lotanang.
Yes.
And I remember running on the Wits fields and reciting my lines so I could get those directors, so I could get the job done.
That sounds a lot like Mahlatsi.
That sounds a lot like my Sati name.
Yes.
So I would run the full laps, like 4 laps, reciting my lines. And that was a process then.
Yes.
10 years later, I'm now seasoned and I decided to write for myself. So this is something I've been very public about. I've been going through a very a journey where I've been cutting off alcohol from my life, right?
Yeah.
So it started off there. Lots of the writings and the things that we do come from our personal experiences.
Yeah.
And this sort of thing that I wrote was from sort of like traumas and griefs that I'd gone through and the losses that I'd gone through over the years. Some of them in the public domain. I mean, I lost my brother, who is the famous chef Linswe, in public.
Linswe,
And you know what I mean? So he was sort of like the inspiration to that writing. And I decided to go on a sort of like introspective journey and write about what I was going through. I was sort of like channeling the grief and channeling the traumas, and I decided to cut off alcohol and write about it.
Yeah.
Now, because I was writing from a personal perspective, it was really, really, really difficult because there were parts of myself that I couldn't really face that I needed to face.
Absolutely.
So now going from the writing into the acting, that was difficult. The process was difficult. First of all, the process of drafting the script, because it's such a personal story and we're so attached to it. I didn't know what I could let go of and what I couldn't let go of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't know what I could sort of cut out and what I couldn't cut out. So everything felt precious to me. And then I had a meeting with James. So I had a meeting with James Noble, and he, as you know, James is, my darling, you've written this piece, my darling, and you know it's close to you, but you're gonna have to find some things to change.
There we go with the impression, and it's spot on.
That's, you know what I mean? I love him so much. So after my meeting with James, I sort of decided to go back and write and change a lot of things. So by the time I found a director, the famous Kucha Green, who has been on this very same stage that we are. Phenomenal actress.
Phenomenal.
Like
one of our generation's top creme de la creme.
Creme de la creme. So when I found her to be a director, it was easy to get into the acting because she's a visionary. You know, she came in, she saw the piece of work, she saw outside of the personal stories.
She could give that objective eye.
And we started working from there. I find my processes from the first time around, I definitely wasn't running laps around a field. I'll tell you that much for
performance
free.
Fitness.
I was not doing performance fitness. If anything, I was working from the inside out. So I was in, whatever was inside was coming out as opposed to the outside coming in. And there are a lot of actors they find themselves in the Gibson Kent sort of thing. Yeah, that sort
where
of.
They need that external stimulus.
Where you need to act for me to be seen. You know what I mean? And I sort of try to go against that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I try to go against that.
I think that's also the hardest work that we do.
Yeah.
When we have to inject ourselves into the work, it's vulnerable stuff.
Yeah.
And vulnerability is done best when you're brave. So you had to be brave.
I had to be very, very brave. And I think I still am going to be brave because I wanted to tour. Friend, I wanted to tour. I want to tour.
What happened? Why? Are you working on maybe possibly touring the show?
I definitely am. I'm going to go and do my 5th draft.
Okay.
Go and do my 5th draft and apply. You know, we always have to apply for funding.
Yes.
And those sort of things.
Yeah.
And we'll see from there.
No, I am crossing fingers, but I know. I can feel it. I'm an energetically sensitive person. I can feel that it's going to go far. I can sense it. And I hope that the work is at some point used as a case study for people to study, for kids to study, for young women to study.
I receive
and young boys and women and young girls, because alcohol is a big issue.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big theme. South Africans really suffer from alcoholism because it's what we've been taught to use as a coping mechanism because of apartheid.
No, you're right. You know, South Africa has a huge drinking problem, one. And, I mean, we're named the second. Out of all the countries in the world, statistically, we're named the second biggest drinking country.
So which country? Germany?
I can't remember who's the first one. It should be Germany with all the beer that they drink. But we're named the second, so that's a huge thing.
That's a huge sign.
But also just in our industry, that's such a huge thing. So I just hope, not just to speak to the country at large, I hope I can speak to a few more people that are like us as artists that are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
But now I want to go back to the fangirling moment, right? You've been my friend for a while.
Yes.
But I've watched your work, and this is me being super, super genuine. I remember sitting, I want to find the place I was sitting. I think.
Oh, really? I can
still remember. I remember because I remember your voice. There's a scene that you had on this side of the stage. I think you have a solo. I can't remember which song it was. It was on this side of the stage, and I was sitting up there.
Oh, my.
I was sitting up there and I was watching you. And I said to myself, damn, I know Didi can act. I know Didi can sing. But I didn't know that you could be that vulnerable.
Yes.
You know, because I've only known you from our Wits and Kitchener's days, and it was always such a fun time. And although we were really, really close, we all sort of like masked it with like all the other social activities that we had.
Yeah.
But what I saw on that stage, I sort of wanted to pick at your brain, and I guess I'm going to pick at your brain now. How was that? How was that experience like for The Color Purple? Like The Color Purple, what was your process? How was the experience? I mean, how was the director? Because, I mean, you worked with such a prolific director. How was that? I'm going to ask, I know I've asked a million questions, but I hope you're going to get to answer all of them.
I will answer all of them and ask you more.
Okay.
So very similar to you, Swankie. My journey into The Color Purple was very... The Color Purple came at a time where I needed that kind of medicine. I needed to play a character that went through similar traumas that I had gone through, right? So when I did The Color Purple, I had survived sexual assault.
Wow,
And
I'm sorry.
yes, and I think the vulnerability that you saw on the stage was me choosing to use the pain and literally inject it into the character, onto the stage, like literally just pour it onto the stage. And it scared me a lot. It made me feel like I was being seen, like people knew exactly what had happened to me.
Yeah.
But there was something liberating about telling the story of Celie having been victimized, having been violated, and having been in a very deeply hopeless, powerless space, and then working her way into becoming the victor of her circumstances. And the lesson that she learns is that God is always inside of her. The power that she thought she needed from the world to be valuable or to mean something to someone, you know, to have value. It all lived inside of her. It was with her all along.
Yeah.
And I think I needed to know that, right? The Color Purple was my first big production. It was my first big anything as an actor. And it felt like I was being thrown into the deep end of, you know,
I can
into
imagine.
like the deep waters. But I swam. And I think it's important for actors to have those kinds of opportunities, those roles that really stretch them out of their comfort zone, that force them to dig deep into their inner resources and use that as fuel to tell the story.
Yeah.
If, you know, honestly, when I look back at it, I would never wish anything upon anyone like what I went through, the sexual trauma, but without that, I don't think I would have been that vulnerable. I don't think I would have had that insight. And I think that's also part of being an actor, is the more you experience life, is the better actor you become.
Yeah.
You know, I was young, but at least I had the experience to understand Celie. I understood Celie. I knew what it was like to feel unseen, to not be heard, to not feel valued, to be powerless. But it was really, truly medicine to play a character. And it almost was like I was embodying her come into her own. And that embodiment in front with, you know, thousands of people witnessing that became my embodiment into my own.
Yeah.
Like I walked into the space, the Joburg Theatre. When I came here, I was a completely different actress to when I walked out because of the story. So it's just a reminder to us that the stories that we tell, that we write, are not only, they don't only impact and move the audience, they move us, And that's when you know that you've done something really incredibly powerful, is when you leave transformed by it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just, oh, The Color Purple. To me, it was like allowing myself to be vulnerable and to be seen. and to inject. Like, I knew what I was injecting or pouring out onto that stage.
Yeah.
But it's really affirming to hear from you that you were sitting right there at the top,
Right
but you could
there.
see me really like being human. You could see the humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
honestly, isn't that why we do what we do?
That's exactly why we do what we do. You know, first of all, from one survivor to another, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. You know, the stories that we tell, The Color Purple speaks so much to issues of womanhood,
Yeah.
to issues of like, you know, and we're
Very much like For Colored Girls,
very
right?
much like For Colored
Which
Girls.
character did you play?
I played the lady in purple.
The lady in purple.
I played the lady in purple.
The lady in purple. Guys. Okay, what was that like? What was your journey?
For Colored Girls. I remember I got a call from James.
Yes.
Right? And he said to me, "My darling, I want you to audition for this piece." And I was like, okay. Note, I had not had a big theater production like on an actual stage outside of like Wits. So the one woman show that I did was it was called the Solar Festival, but it was at Wits.
Yes.
So this was just like you with The Color Purple, this was my big acting on a big stage gig.
Swank.
I know.
The synchronicity.
I know.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And when I came into audition, I had this hard piece, and I remember James looking at me and he has this thing that he does when you're acting, where he sort of like sits and he looks, you know, and you never know if you're doing it right or you're doing it wrong. You know what I mean? So I left that audition room and I was like, this man just kept staring at me, you know? So when I got the call that I was part of it, I was elated. I'd watched the movie, but I'd never read the book.
Oh, no? You haven't read the book?
I'd never.
Okay.
So when I read it, there's so many things that
the movie doesn't
portray.
Yeah.
So when I remember the first day I got into rehearsals, we all gathered up on the first floor and I was sweating from nerves. You know, I mean, I looked at the cast members. There's more.
Because it's a phenomenal, exceptionally beautiful cast.
Stellar cast.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, how in the world did this man get 8 phenomenal women in one room?
Yeah.
And I looked at the story and I remember being in the room, in the first rehearsal room, and not knowing what I was doing. Not knowing what I was doing. And James has this weird way of working, you know. I've never worked with a director like that. He sort of doesn't work from the beginning to the end.
Oh, wow.
He doesn't.
It's not like linear.
No.
Oh, beautiful.
With James, that's not what you expect. It's like, he'll say, here's a book. Today we're going to work on this book. And this book is going to transform into something. And then you're sitting there with this book and you ask yourself, what is it going to transform into? So I sat there for the first few rehearsals very, very confused by like no, I'm not gonna lie. And you can tell him, he knows. Because I'd go back to him, I'd be like, Mapoloba, you know what I mean? I sat there confused half the time. But I remember when it all started to sink in. There's this piece that I do and it goes, once there were quadroon balls, elegance in St. Louis. So we were playing around with that on the floor. And James and I started to dance together. We started to dance together. And as I was saying this piece, we were dancing. And then he said, my darling, that's exactly what we were going to do. So all the madness that I'd been experiencing over the past few weeks and all those dancing and all the singing that we were doing made sense in that one moment. And, you know, to play a woman, as you said, in The Color Purple, that has been victimized and to be a victim yourself was a very, very hard one for me. There's this one monologue where she says, I lived with myths and music was my old man and I could dance. A dance out of time, a dance with no partners, take my steps and keep right on lingering. And to come to you, I had to bring everything. The dance, the music, I had to bring it all. And then she pleads with this man and she goes, but can you please just love me? And she goes, I'm begging you, can't you please just love me? And I remember being on that stage and saying that because I directed those words to a person. And I remember coming full circle to myself. You know, James had always encouraged us. He said he was a male director, but he wanted to see these 8 women in a room sort of like evolve and transform. And there was one day in the performance where I looked at someone and I said, please, can you please just love me? And all those feelings of victimized, like, you know, because you know, as a victim,
powerlessness.
there's powerlessness. I remember feeling that. And as I walked away from that stage and I sat on my seat again, I remember feeling empowered.
Yes.
So it was, for Colored Girls was always such a full circle moment for me. I came to realize the kind of woman that I am. I came to realize the kind of women that are out there. I mean, listening to the stories, I played along Fifi Modiselle, Melo, the brilliant CEO, Mona Munyane, Tuto, who is younger than me and is a force to be reckoned with.
She absolutely is.
She's amazing. And watching them portray those stories helped me evolve into the woman that I am right now. So, I mean, shout out to James.
Yeah, no,
Shout out to
but,
James in that direction.
He's been phenomenal for a long,
long time. Speaking of directors, right? I mean, I've just given all my praises to mine. How was your journey with your director and The Color Purple? I mean, because we saw a finished product, but we don't know what the process was like.
I think she was generous in the sense that she really kind of allowed us to bring our personal voices to the characters, right? And I think I honestly do appreciate how, you see, Janice Honeyman is just so good with musicals, right? She just has that brilliant eye of being able to weave in the story and the music, and she's brilliant in that aspect. And I really I admired how she brought the story to life. You know, I admired the set. I admired how she directed us. I admired how just the merge of the technicalities of it, as well as her allowing us to really just hoy. Yeah. I remember walking into the audition room, and unlike many of the other ladies, I came in costume. I went to a secondhand store because my acting coach, Stephen Feinstein, you know, would suggest to us that we should go full out for auditions and like get into character and use them as opportunities to perform. And I went to a secondhand store, a charity store in Malvo, and then I came in this blue and white dress. I remember her kind of just spotting me. And I think it was the way that I had presented myself. And she was kind of like intrigued. And I sang. And I also did the scene. But one thing that I remember her telling me is to bring the soul, you know, bring my soul into the character. And which is what I did, and which is what she kind of guided all of us to do, to find the soul and the essence of who this character is, find that in ourselves and just hoy and bring it. So I do appreciate the fact that she allowed us to tap spiritually into the world of the musical, because, you know, musicals can be very frozen. Once the show is done, it's frozen. And, you know, it can be very pantomimey and very like spectacle, you know. But she made sure that we brought our spirituality to it. It was a great process working with Janice Honeyman in that regard, because she allows the actors to really just find themselves in their characters and hoy, you know. But speaking of the themes of both For Colored Girls and The Color Purple, these are stories that were written by African American Black women who either went through the experiences that we went through personally and in the characters, or knew women who did. And I just kind of wanted to expand on that. Like, it's just interesting how we live in an environment where the rape culture and the gender-based violence is still so prevalent,
Sure.
right? It's actually so sad. It's a nightmare. It's a literal nightmare.
It's a literal nightmare.
These stories that we tell and these characters that we've, played are so significant because of that. I always think about this quote that says, men watch women,
Yeah.
and women watch themselves being watched by men.
That one is crazy. Men watch women,
And
women watch themselves being watched by men.
It's so true, because as a woman, you are constantly confronted by your own image all the time.
All the time.
And you are projected on because of your own image. And most of the time, our image and the projections that we get from people have literally nothing to do with
us.
our desires.
Yeah.
Yes, they have absolutely nothing to do with our desires. Do you feel like patriarchy is something that we need to dismantle in order for us to deal with the rape culture and the gender-based violence nightmare that we're dealing with at the moment?
That's such an important question and a very interesting one. When I was younger, I definitely used to think patriarchy is what, and I still do believe patriarchy needs to be dismantled. But I look at it from in the African sort of like context. And this talk of patriarchy has been going on for a long time now. And I find that men are aware, you know what I mean, are aware of the patriarchy. They are aware that it exists, and they are aware of what it does to women. And with all of the sort of conversations that go around, it irks me that even till now, they don't do anything about it. So then I ask myself, is it patriarchy that needs, because it's not my responsibility as a woman to dismantle something that I didn't create, and I always say with patriarchy, it's a man's job to sort of like look at themselves, reflect on themselves, and decide to make a change on a few things. You know what I mean? And I think that's what also for colored girls also sort of like empowered me to say. It's like women are writing stories about themselves that put themselves in a place of agency. Men need to now start creating stories where they look at themselves and they're honest about what they do and how they terrorize women.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because there's a man that might be sitting there and say, well, not me.
Yeah.
But if they just look at some of the things that they do, they might just find in a split moment that, hey, I might just be a tad bit patriarchal there without even...
Or even amongst
amongst
themselves,
themselves.
in group dynamics with their friends or wherever. Just having the agency and the courage to call out that misogynistic behavior. Yeah.
So with that said, I now have taken a different look at it. For colored girls has made me say, I can't change and dismantle patriarchy on my own, but what I can do is put women in a place of agency.
And upliftment and empowerment.
Yeah. So I want to change the gender-based violence conversation. I want to stop asking men to have conferences and conversations with themselves about gender-based violence, because they will not get to the bottom of it. They will have the conversation, they will go back home and reiterate the exact same thing they've been doing the day before. So what I want to now do is say, let us as women empower ourselves and be responsible for the narrative.
I absolutely agree with you, because that's where our agency is. But here's another perspective that I've been thinking about.
Yeah?
It's been at the back of my mind, and I think maybe this is a great time to sort of bounce it with someone. I feel like what we consider, because you were talking about us as Africans.
Yes.
Reba Toba Bantoba, Reba Africa. Right? I think as Africans, we have this idea gore setso empowers, or it creates a dynamic where, or our belief systems is that men must lead the household, men must lead the workplace, men must lead even in positions of governance, right?
Yeah.
And that's patriarchal. But I don't think people are aware that our cultures have been bastardized. And I don't think people are ready for that chat, but our cultures have been bastardized.
Come with it.
By patriarchal systems such as religion. They have.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
And before we even, exactly, so, because sometimes men can counter this topic by saying that, no, but it's part of our culture for the men to lead. It's who we are as Africans. Is it really who we are? Because these systems have been bastardized.
So what is...
So we have to find out and relearn ourselves before the invent of religion.
I like that.
And you probably will find that we found a way for men and women to coexist with equilibrium and balance and harmony. There was harmony before there was this entity or religion that came and told people that a man must be the head of the house, a man must be the head of the workplace, and a man must be a president. So for me, I'm realizing that not only is it a cultural aspect that we need to dissect in order to deal with this gender-based violence and this rape culture, but it's also factoring the past and the violence that apartheid really entrenched in our society, because men during that time were violated. And that violence continued more over time. Bring in the alcoholism with the taverns in every single second street in a township. That the socio-geographical aspects of it as well is something we also need to dissect. Men and women need to come together and think about this if we're going to deal with the gender-based violence and the rape culture that is a literal nightmare.
That is a literal nightmare.
It's cultural, it's political. Like, we have a lot of work to do about it, but women cannot only just cry about it. We need to find real concrete ways with men to deal with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. You were saying something, and I wanted to touch on like you spoke about the spirituality of the stage performance, The Color Purple, when you were performing at Joburg Theatre.
Yeah.
I want to speak about where you were mentally, because you came and you expressed and you said, as a sexual assault survivor, you had to pour in a lot of yourself into the character. What did that do to you mentally? Like, how did that, like, because we're just coming out of Mental Health Month. How did that have what did that do to you? Because I can tell you what it did to me for Colored Girls.
Start there.
Should I start?
Yeah, please do, share.
What it did to me mentally is it broke me down. I told you that I was empowered, but before I was empowered, I was broken down mentally, because I had to go back and sort of like realize and come to terms with, yes, I am a survivor. That's what the story does. And then sort of like find ways to debrief from the story as an actor. So see my personal story, then see the story that I'm portraying, portray the story and marry the two together, and then debrief. So mentally that was hard. I mean, I remember after doing For Colored Girls, I had 2 months where I wasn't working as an actor, and I was going
nuts.
I didn't like men. Note, I was in a relationship at that time.
Oh no.
I didn't like men. I was crying every time I saw something about an abortion. I was crying every time I saw something about a rape victim. I was crying, because that affected me mentally. And I hadn't debriefed as an
You
actor.
hadn't debriefed?
I hadn't debriefed as an actor. I had this whole big production. And then it was like closing nights, clap, clap, clap,
clap, clap.
bravo. And there was no debrief.
Yeah.
It was me, myself, and luckily we had 8 other women to sort of like lean on, and that's how I became close with the other fellow cast members. But mentally, I was in shatters. That's what it did to me. How did it affect you? Because mental health is a huge thing in our industry.
Yeah, definitely.
You and I have lost a friend. I mean,
Yes.
we've lost AB.
Yes.
With those cute dimples and that beautiful
those cute
dimples. And that beautiful smile. I mean, Ebenezer.
Beautiful. He was so handsome
I mean,
and so smart.
and he was a comedian.
And he was a comedian. And he injected a lot of what he was going through and his pain into his work
as well.
But perhaps you're right. Us actors and performers need to find a grounding ritual that debriefs us, that prepares us to go in when we're about to share, and then that grounds us back to an optimistic viewpoint of our lives.
Yeah.
And a sense of gratitude that we've just shared. So I went through the same thing with The Color Purple because I did have to. I decided to marry Celie to a lot of what I went through, right? And yes, at first it will break you down because you're coming face to face with everything that has happened. And when it happens, usually survivors of such traumas, right, we bottle it in.
Yeah.
And we think we are healing. But really, there's so much more that we still have to dissect, so many different questions that we still have to navigate through. We still have so much work to do. You cannot get over it in a year or two. Right? And so by the time this opportunity came, I think God brought it to me so that I can go down.
Go deep and
go
dig it.
deeper. And so it became ugly, right? The process of it became ugly. It started off with feeling like a victim of everything that was happening to me. I had to be strong enough to bring that to the table so that I can use Celie and the process to navigate it, to forgive the experience, and to just allow it to remind me that I survived it. And I remember at that time, that was also the time where I stopped calling myself a survivor. I called myself a thriver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
I'm taking that home with me.
Yes, but it was playing Celie that made me stop calling myself a survivor of sexual assault, of rape, into a thriver.
I like that.
And so what I did, though, when I came into the process, I had an acting coach, still my acting coach to this day, Stephen Feinstein. And he really assisted me with the process. He reminded me that an actor needs to have a ritual that they do to get in, and then something that they do to get out. So I would use water to get out. I had a dressing room that had a bath, a bath, toilet, like an ensuite kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. And I would wash. Lovely. I would literally listen to Lerato singing next door and then Aubrey playing his music in the next dressing room. The sounds as well, the sounds of the environment around me would ground me back to Didi. Washing, letting water just wash all of that away, and then having a prayer afterwards. That would be the process that I take when grounding myself out of Celie. But when I would bring myself into Celie, there were just so many weird things that I would do. Like us actors, we're so kind of weird. Like I would just have these little weird conversations with myself and kind of like almost spiritually will silly out in me and do weird little mannerisms in the dressing room. And costume I remember, especially
Yes.
shoes.
Yes.
The shoes.
Yes.
I remember
Yes.
the shoes being almost like a telepathic, you know, maybe I was being dramatic about it, but I would put
No.
on the dress, and I would put on the Vaseline, and but when I put on the shoes and then walk around in them, then the posture came, then the voice came, then the memories that I would create in the backstory of my mind as Celie would come and she would enter, you know? So I remember costume was what I would use. Costume was what I would use to get into character, and then bathing
Yeah.
was what I would use to get out.
I like that.
So that, and that's why I never really went home and would bawl my eyes out, because I would take care of that in the bath. So if I needed to bawl, if there was a day where, I don't know, the spirit overtook me, I would bawl out in the bath, leave it in that bath, wash that bath,
Wash that bath.
go. Yeah, a little OCD like that. Then go home, and by the time I'd go home, I'm Didi, I'm okay. Because I bawled out, I washed it off.
I like that.
And I would encourage that next time, maybe find your own way. I know a friend of ours, Tsulu Maseko, she says she skips.
She skips.
She skips. And it's always a physical activity that takes you out. You can never just decide, okay, I'm zoning out of my character and Lady Purple. I'm zoning out of Purple Lady and then back to Swankie. You have to physically
do
it.
something.
Yeah.
So for me, that's weird. It's always been smell.
Okay, so that is physical.
Yeah, so every character of mine has a different cologne.
Okay.
So like, and
that.
different hair. Do you remember the show we did? Single Girls?
Oh, Single Girls! Oh my God, Single Girls!
Yes! Friend,
Oh my God,
I'm sitting and I'm looking at you. I'm like, we must have done a show together.
Get
Do you remember Single Girls?
Yes.
And she used to speak like this the whole time with the blue hair.
Yes, your character was like that.
Yep. So she had a scent, and she
Okay.
had different hair.
Yes,
So the blue hair.
the blue hair.
So
yeah.
I choose all sorts of. I don't know if you saw for colored girls. I had a crown.
Yes.
I had these sea cow shells in the front,
yes.
and I had a crown.
Yes.
And that crown was for the character. That scent was for the character. And immediately when I'm done with the show, I change my hair, I change the scent, and I go back to mine. So that's weird that you say that you're using the wash.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
to wash off everything.
Yeah.
You know what?
I love that it's the scent.
Yeah.
This form of like stimulus is so underrated.
Yeah.
Like our sense of smell. Like we're so used to just breathing in and out and smelling things that when we stop, when for some reason your nose is blocked, you realize how important your sense of smell is.
Yeah.
And my mind is connecting it to you, saying that smell is what connected you to character, because as human beings, how we connect with men that we love or friends is actually we smell the pheromones.
Yeah.
And if they smell weird, then we don't connect like on a biological level. But what also helps you fall in love
is how the person smells.
Their pheromones, and it's like their smell. So it's just interesting that you use that as a way to fall in love or connect with character. That's so interesting.
Speaking of smell, just on a lighter note, I want to know, since we haven't seen each other for a long time, what can we smell?
Yeah.
What can we smell
in
the horizon? What's in the horizon? What is smelling in the horizon for Didi? Like, what's next? What's the future?
I guess I am sensing and smelling positions of leadership in production.
Positions of leadership in production.
Yes,
yeah.
I am sensing and smelling really creating my own work. I am also, without saying too much, sensing and smelling international collaborations which are underway.
I'm smelling that too for you.
And what are you smelling into your future?
I'm definitely smelling. I'm smelling a tour of my one-woman show.
Oh, yes.
I'm smelling.
Smells divine.
Smells divine. I clock it.
Clock.
I'm also smelling going back to my activism work. I want to sit as a member of parliament. I say
Yes.
that now
Yes.
with my mouth into the universe's ears.
And the universe is catching it. Catching it!
You know what I mean? So next time I see you, it's probably going to be, I'll probably be a member of parliament.
Yes.
But it's been amazing.
Thank you. Don't forget to like,
share,
and subscribe.